You're listening to Let's Stay Together, a podcast about Fruits Basket by Natsuki Takaya. I'm Ellen.
And I'm Kayla.
Did you know that every time that I say that and a pause, I dance and I look at the microphone? You probably can't tell.
I don't do that.
What? Maybe you should. Today I just have a small announcement, which is that we're taking 2 weeks off. And not because of my concussions or any bodily injuries of any kind, just because it's the holidays. And the day that we release, the next release after this one will be Christmas. And then the next release after that would be New Year's Day. So It seems like a good idea for us to take a little holiday break. And then we'll be back on January 8th with the next episode, which will be chapter 73. Today we're doing 71 and 72. So Woo! Yeah, I know. It'll be a good time. I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday.
Just one.
The one holiday. At the end of winter, we combine all of our holidays into one, right?
One massive holiday.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, so we're taking a little holiday break. That's all I wanted to say. But don't worry, we'll be back in January, barring any unforeseen
concussions,
laryngitis, or concussions. Yeah, it's always me. Everything's fine. Anyway, today we're discussing 71 and 72. We're going to do our summary and then a little discussion and spoiler discussion like we always do every time.
Yay.
These episodes, these chapters are also kind of a roller coaster just like last time. Mm-hmm. But there's more humor in these. The last two episodes I felt like they were such downers. I feel like but this time there's some good stuff, but yeah.
A little emotional whiplash.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, this one has more emotional whiplash, but there'll be more humor in between, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. Let's get into it. Chapter 71 opens at school. Great teacher Mayuko tells Yuki that his mother had to postpone their parent-teacher conference, and it turns out that he didn't know. She didn't tell you? She asks. And Yuki looks down and apologizes for his mother's selfishness. Mayuko looks concerned, and then kind of sighs and pats his shoulder and assures a sad-looking Yuki that it's no problem, and they part. Tohru comes around the corner and runs into Yuki. He tells her about his mother rearranging the conference. But it's cause for celebration that she's coming at all, I guess, he says. As some Prince Yuki fangirls watch on in jealousy, they talk about the conferences, and Tohru asks Yuki if he plans to go to college, and he says, expression dark, yeah, I guess I'd like to. Tohru remembers Akito's words from the beach. In the end, they'll all come back to me, always remaining the same. The parent-teacher conferences are for you to think about your own path, your own future, so you can please do your best, she says. I won't be afraid, she thinks, and remembers Akito's words, stay out of it. Tohru grimaces and says, I'll do my best not to stay out of it! And Yuki is like, huh? Inside the meeting room / conference room, we see Uo's parent-teacher conference. She says that for now she'd like to work after graduating. She's worried about having just her dad's income. He's like, hey. Mayuko asks if she would like any job in particular, and Uo remembers a conversation with Tohru who says it would be great for her to become a model. Well then, let's say I want to become a model, Uo says, and Mayuko is like, maybe you should think it over a bit first. We also see Hana's parent-teacher conference with her mom. For now, I wonder if I could graduate, she says, looking thoughtful, and her mom is like, hang in there, Saki-chan, and Mayuko is like, well, that depends on how much work you put into it, Hanajima. I like that we get to see their parent-teacher conferences. Yeah. Later in the hallway, all the girls are all riled up. Did you see? I saw. Is it really her father? He could be. Maya-chan-sensei might fall in love with him, they say. And of course they're talking about Shigure, who we see walking down the hallway with Tohru in a suit. They meet with Mayuko in the hall, and as Shigure predicted and desired, Mayuko's face turns into one of utter annoyance and disgust when she realizes that he's come for Tohru's parent-teacher conference. He clenches his fist in victory. Her face is amazing. Disgust and annoyance is the only thing I could think of, but it's actually amazing. In the end, they end up seated inside the office, and Mayuko says that she knew that Tohru was living with Soma-san, as she calls him, but didn't realize that he'd be filling in for her grandfather for this parent-teacher conference. Thank you for taking time of your busy schedule. You're a man overflowing with generosity, aren't you? Mayuko says to Shigure, smiling in an overly fake and pleasant way, and he replies in kind, not at all. I only did what anyone else would do.
There's like sparkles around their dialogue and everything.
So good. Tohru thinks, what is this? For some reason, I feel like a cold wind is blowing. Well, let's begin, Mayuko says, snapping Tohru back. You wanted to get a job, right, Honda? She asks, and Tohru says yes. Mayuko asks if she really doesn't want to go on to college and mentions there are scholarships available, and there's still time for her if she wants to do that. Tohru remembers Kyo saying, you're probably really worried about your future. No, she says. It's fine. I want to work once I've safely graduated from high school. After all. Tohru trails off, remembering her mother hugging her and smiling, and thinks, that was the last promise I was able to make to Mom. Mayuko asks, after you graduate, you're planning to leave Soma-san's house, right? Shigure and Tohru's faces are shown kind of in shadow, and Tohru thinks of a hallway in a house, kind of a splotchy texture crowding in. Yes, she answers after a moment with a smile. If you'd like, why not be my bride? Shigure asks, and Tohru's like, and Mayuko face palms. He goes on to say that he's already 28, and people keep telling him to settle down, and they turn the fake smiles on again, and Mayuko says, a proposal is a very important thing to a woman. You shouldn't say it so lightly. Maybe it's because you're like that you can't get married. Sensei, are you the type who's still dreaming about being proposed to? Maybe it's because you're like that you're letting your years of marriageable age pass you by. Tohru again thinks, for some reason there are ice crystals blowing in. Honda, Mayuko says again, snapping her back again. For now, we'll work with the idea of you getting a job, but there's still time for you to change your mind, so think carefully. Yes, please regard me kindly, Tohru says, and Mayuko adds with a soft smile. Honda, don't take on too many burdens, okay? Tohru replies yes, albeit a bit confused. They conclude their meeting, and Shigure asks Tohru to head out so that he can talk to Sensei alone, and we're treated to a chibi panel of Mayuko grimacing, and Tohru says, but the ice crystals, and Shigure is like, whatever are you talking about, Tohru-kun? Outside the room, all the other girls are trying to eavesdrop, and Tohru walks away thinking, come to think of it, how did Shigure-san know that Sensei is single? I'm a little anxious, she thinks, and she thinks of Mayuko telling her not to take on too many burdens. I wonder what she meant by that. I don't really understand. Tohru imagines the same hallway again. The door at the end of the hallway seems to be like slightly more open, slightly wider, and it's still covered with dark texture. What is this leaning feeling, she thinks, and then we see that she's actually physically leaning in the hallway at school. Back in the room where Shigure and Mayuko are meeting, they talk. Seeing you act like a teacher, I think maybe I've fallen in love with you again, he says, and they exchange sass. Mayuko tells him to cut the crap, sasses him for wearing Hattori's suit, and much to Mayuko, Shigure says, if you and Hasan get married, I'll be related to you after all, and then we see Mayuko's reaction of despair. I really shouldn't have made advances on you. Things would never have worked out between us, Shigure adds, with eyes full of anger. Mayuko replies, well, I'm glad we're in agreement. Also, that's like half of their sass exchange, in case anyone was wondering. I just cut to the best parts. Once this exchange is done, Mayuko adds, there's something I want to tell you about Honda. You need to take a little better care of her. As humble as she is, she's the type who might shoulder everything. I don't know how much you know that would lead you to say that, Shigure says, but I've been told that by a relative as well. And Shigure remembers the other day when Rin visited him at home. So it's actually the same. I looked at their outfits, and I think it's the same as in the last chapter that we saw. Mm-hmm. She sits back to back against his office chair. That girl, Rin says in the memory, was hurt on her cheek. Something really did happen at Summer House, didn't it? Akito just scratched her, Shigure says. To you, Gurdini, are people like that girl just things? Like those fallen books? Like scrap paper? Rin asks. In the present, Shigure tells Mayuko, even though it might not seem like it, I'm handling Tohru with closer care than I've given anyone else before. That doesn't mean much coming from you, she says. And he crosses his arms and huffs. Whatever could you mean? With my personality, you'd be a fool to expect any more. Besides, that's not even my job, is it? That's low, even coming from you, Mayuko replies. You don't even treat the people you claim to like as human beings. And Shigure smiles a dark, kind of resigned-looking smile. Honda, please don't discover his true nature, Mayuko says, looking away, and Shigure grumps. Hey, you make it sound like I'm evil incarnate. Later in the day at home, Kyo, Tohru, and Yuki sit down for dinner. Kyo asks how the conference went, and Tohru says it was fine, though there were a few ice crystals, and of course Yuki's like, what is she talking about? They talk about how all the girls thought that Shigure was cute and that they'll probably swoon over Shisho tomorrow as well. Shigure arrives home late, and he says because he tried to return Hattori's suit, and Hattori was like, I don't want it anymore, burn it. So Shigure kept it.
Like how he comes in like with his like suit all like half open and disheveled and like rubbing his hair, and Kyo's like, did a drunk wander into our house by mistake?
Yes. There's a lot of sass in this chapter, yeah. But there was a lot of dialogue, so I had to cut it down a lot. Yeah. I highly encourage everyone to read this chapter and enjoy the sass on their own. There's like even more sass in this conversation too, but it kind of fades out. Mm-hmm. And then in the background we see, on the next page, we see Tohru kind of looking down sadly, face darkened. At school the next day, Tohru, Uo, and Hana clean up. Well, Uo and Hana are cleaning up because Uo calls to Tohru and snaps her out of her thoughts. She's holding the broom like up in the air still. They ask if she's worried about something, and Hana says that she feels swirling waves. I get anxious when I think about the future, Tohru says. And then we see her thoughts. It's a chaotic, dark panel with these negative images in the negative of her mother with her face bandaged. And we see two people that look like students and another person with short hair who I think might be Kyo. It's kind of hard to tell. It's from behind. And we see this thought, Tohru's thoughts and narration over it. No, it's not as simple as that. The truth lies much deeper. There's also a panel. The next panel is of Tohru looking down, hands clenched tight around the broom handle. It's still not touching the floor, but it's the right direction. And then we see the box with the tightly closed lid at the bottom of the panel. Doesn't everybody? Uo asks. Even I get anxious. I get this jittery feeling down my back, And my dad tells me I need to think about it, quote unquote, more seriously. I too was told to please graduate. Hana adds, and Uo is way to set the bar low. But in your case, Tohru, don't think too hard about it, Uo says, and then pats her head. If you lose yourself in your worries, you waste the now. I'm worried about you. Tohru remembers Shigure telling her to think about what she can do now, what she can do today, and Tohru smiles and clutches the broom handle to her chest. Yes, you're right. It's like soumen. Soumen, is that a joke? Uo asks, and Tohru explains about the soumen, eating soumen. You need to spend time to eat soumen together. She apologizes for complaining and thanks them with a big smile. Hana says she doesn't need to thank them. All we did was return the favor that you always do for us. And in the background, Uo was like, geez, Hana, way to steal the credit, because Uo was the one who was patting her head and giving her the advice. Uo also says not to trust the writer, as she calls Shigure, and Hana adds, he's twisted. And Tohru is like, it's all right, Shigure-san is a very nice person. And they think, well, if she trusts him that much, he must have some very tiny pangs of conscience. They see Shisho walking by with Kyo, and Tohru explains who he is. They don't look very alike, Uo says, but he's pretty handsome, Hana says, and Tohru and Uo are shocked, and she's like, what? It's great. Meanwhile, in Kyo's parent-teacher conference, Mayuko asks about what his future outlook is, and he struggles to answer. It is rather hard to picture him as a college student or member of society, Shisho says, with a smile, and Mayuko chuckles and says, that's true. While Kyo's like, what? Outside in the hall, Kyo asks, you're not going to say anything? To Shisho. Adults have no right to deprive children of their free will, do they? But I think they do have the right to worry over them, Shisho says, and he tells Kyo to keep thinking about it. I want to know the answer that you give. Shisho starts to walk away, and Kyo says, I only have a little longer to be near her. Other than that, nothing comes to mind. He thinks, I want to be near her. That's the only outlook that I'm thinking about. And he thinks of Tohru. Kyo suddenly stops a shoe from hitting his face, and Tohru claps. And it turns out that the pitcher who threw the shoe was Uho, who's like, who do you think you are catching it like that? You're Kyo. Kyo grabs at her, and they announce that they're coming over tonight. Tohru says, blushing, today will you join us for a soumen party? Kyo smiles a soft smile and thinks, no one will know my answer yet. Not until the day I graduate. Yuki says at home, Hanajima sound like Shihan? And it turns out the gang is all in the kitchen helping, quote-unquote helping Tohru make dinner. And Hana adds, but I'm nervous about having such a large child. Uo says it'll all work out and slaps Kyo in the back. And Kyo's like, wait, damn it, there's no way I want Hanajima to be my mom. And Shigure is like, so you're all just ignoring Kazuma Dono's feelings then? And that's the end of the chapter. So many feelings. I really enjoyed seeing Mayuko and Shigure.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's ready for the next chapter because this is taking another an emotional slide down an emotional roller coaster.
There are some really adorable little chibi faces of the gang right at the beginning of this volume, though. So that can lighten your heart a bit before you get into the darkness. Yeah, it's right before the first chapter page.
Oh yeah, they are. Oh, they're really cute. Yeah, if you for those playing along at home who actually I think it's both. Yeah, in both the collector's edition and the old ones, where these two chapters span over two different volumes. Sorry, not sorry. Yeah, so if you we're reading the old Tokyo Pop version, of course. I think we said a long time ago. And so in there's some little chibi things of the main trio, which are adorable. You're right. There's also a drawing of Art or Ari and Mogeta.
Yeah.
And for some reason, there's a note in there that's translated today. It's also today, and I really thought that was really funny when I was reading through this. All right, chapter 72 opens with Yuki calling his mother about the parent-teacher conference. Their conversation isn't that important, but we see his narration / thoughts. Even through the receiver, my mother's voice had the same chill it always had, and all the feelings from back then came flooding back to me. Those feelings of sinking, of falling, of having all the colors sucked out of life. Yuki holds the phone away from his face and looks at it, and we hear the dial tone buzzing because his mother suddenly hung up on him at the end of their conversation. At school, later, it pours rain. Yuki stands outside and waits as a car pulls up, and we see his mother getting out of the car. He remembers a time as a child. We see baby Yuki calling out to his mother, who faces away from him, clearly trying to ignore him talking to a maid. Mother, I want to go home too. I hate it here. Akito only says scary things. I hate it. I want to go home. Take me with you, Mother. Mother, please help me. Yuki looks up with wide, teary eyes, begging. His mother looks back over her shoulder, then reaches back and pats his head. Aren't you lucky, Yuki? She says. The head of the family likes you. Keep having him be your friend. See you later. In the present, Yuki's mother approaches, and Yuki coughs. In the hallway, Tohru looks concerned after she passes a group of girls gossiping about Yuki and his parents coming. Then we cut to the meeting room. Yuki and his mother and Mayuko all sit. Yuki's mother says that she wants to get this conference over with quickly. There's no need to go over things again. Mayuko asks what she means by that, and she elaborates. He will go on to college. Of course, the places he will apply have been decided. It's already been decided that Yuki will stand at the top of the Soumen family one day. It would be disgraceful if he didn't have a suitable academic background. And Yuki's surprised and angry about all of these things that his mother is saying and says, Wait, how could you decide this on your own? Mother, you can't just assume things without asking me. His mother glares at him. I'm deciding for you. We can see that Yuki is overwhelmed. His eyes are dark. It's true, isn't it? She says. You can't decide things on your own, can you? You thought you could choose your own high school, and you picked this undistinguished place. My God, Yuki, you really never had a worthwhile thought on your own, have you? If all you want to do is disobey me, then be quiet. If you don't get your act together soon, it will cause problems for me, too. All this time while she was saying things, Mayuko was trying to interrupt her, and she's finally able to interrupt and say something. Miss Soma, please stop. Right now, you're striking your child with hurtful words. We see that Yuki's looking down. Yuki's mom continues to say these incredibly rude things to Mayuko, like she asks. She describes the school as undistinguished, and Mayuko says she doesn't care about that. Yuki's mother also says, you're still single, correct? It's not easy having children. They can be so selfish like this boy. So while they have this argument, Yuki struggles internally. I have to say it. I have to put them into words, my own thoughts. Hurry, give them form. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Yuki's mother says when we fought over whether or not he would apply to this school, he would sulk and give me the silent treatment. Yuki's eyes suddenly open and he thinks, no, I didn't. Sudden realization starts to dawn on his face, and we see the aforementioned argument of him in the past. It looks like he's much younger, like he's in late elementary school. Middle school. He says that he's always hated being with the Somas, and his mother says that he never said anything like that. And in this memory, he thinks about the past memory that we just saw when he asked her to take him away as a smaller child, and his eyes widen. Am I your tool? He asks. She doesn't respond, but she glares. So what are you saying? What if you are a tool? In the memory, she stands and says, exasperated, what on earth is your problem? Give me a break. I don't need any more idiots. Ayame is enough. She slaps Yuki. The head of the family likes you. What more do you need? And Yuki tears up in the memory, and in the present he thinks, against her, words are meaningless. They're powerless. She won't let them reach her, and then they die. She's the one who made me think that I should never put my feelings into words again. Suddenly the door opens and fortunately Ayame arrives, brandishing a huge bouquet of roses. Yuki, Mayuko, and Yuki and Ayame's mother are taken completely by surprise. Now, everyone. I apologize for making you wait. This business we call rain is truly a profoundly mysterious thing. After hindering my awakening, it did not even grant me the favor of allowing me to fix my hair. But there's no longer need for worry, Yuki. Ayame pats his head and he says, I, who am number one in affection for my younger brother, have now humbly arrived. Yuki is like, what? And of course his mother stands up and demands to know what Ayame is doing here. But Ayame ignores her and says, these roses are for you, madam, and hands them to Mayuko. They're filled with the respect for the wonderful being that is the female teacher who guides my dear younger brother and whose fair visage inspires romantic fantasy. And Mayuko is like, yes, thank you. Now let us begin this conference forthwith, Ayame says, patting the table. Ayame and Yuki's mother demands that he answer the question. Ayame looks over at her with kind of an upturned nose expression. I wonder if you'd be quiet, mother. We must discuss Yuki's precious future. It would be the height of foolishness to interrupt. He sighs and says, dear, dear, and kind of face palms as well. Although Ayame doesn't really touch his face. He just kind of rests his hand on his forehead as if he's exasperated. You're the one who's interrupting, she says. Ayame asks her not to shout because Yuki and he are both delicate. And Yuki wonders if his mother always disliked Ayame this much. And meanwhile, Mayuko sniffs a rose and thinks Ayame-kun really has quite a presence. Ayame and Yuki's mother yells at him and asks Ayame to stay out of Yuki's parent-teacher conference and wonders what's with him all of a sudden. You never cared about him before, she accuses him. Do you want him to turn into a good-for-nothing ingrate like you? That's not true, Yuki says. Nissan is reliable. I mean, he's outlandish in a lot of ways, but he's not good for nothing. Ayame whips out his phone, and Yuki grabs his shoulder and says, "Hold it, you're not reporting this to Tori." He says, "Do not fret, for I'm sending but a text message." Meanwhile, Yuki and Ayame's mother looks annoyed. Her face is covered in a darkened texture. There's a lot of use of, like, texture in these chapters, I noticed, when people are having these really, like, dark... It bounces back and forth, but I feel like it's used in a way that really... You might only see part of their face, but you can kind of tell what they're feeling because of the use of the texture. Mm-hmm. When did you two get so... Yuki no Ame's mother says, trailing off. My, does it show that we're brothers burning with love? Ayame asks, interrupting her. Did you not realize? Yuki, you see, has given us a chance to do things right, Ayame says. In respect to you as well, what was once nothing is beginning to change into something. Do you not see it? Right now, you are just like I was then, not realizing how much you've trampled on what's important, Ayame says. What? Yuki Niyame's mother says, clenching her fist. I've never been so insulted. Who do you think you are lecturing me? You're talking to your mother. You don't know what I go through. If this is how you're going to treat me, I wish I hadn't given birth to either of you, she says, and stomps out, slamming the door. Mayuko stands up as if to talk to her, and Ayame tells her to leave it be. I don't imagine that words would have any effect on her when she's angry, Ayame says, echoing what Yuki said earlier. Yuki looks down and remembers Tohru telling him to do his best. He stands up suddenly and says, "I'll be back," and goes out into the hall after his mother. He thanks Ayame for coming and leaves. Meanwhile, Ayame furiously taps a message to Tohru on the phone. "Just wait till you hear this, Tori-san," he says. And Mayuko says, "He's going to get mad at you again, you know? Anyway, I didn't think you'd make it." Ayame says that he heard from Shigure about the change in time. "Oh man, not him again," Mayuko says. Ayame says, "Not to worry, but thank you for your effort. My mother is an interesting person, is she not? She possesses the peculiar sensibility of liking money and social status, but it pains me to say that she is completely unable to adapt to my innate royal character." Mayuko is like, yeah. "This is why all of my mother's hopes and dreams have become focused exclusively on Yuki," Ayame continues to explain, while the only feeling that she had for her hopeless, dreaming son was regret. Mayuko smiles a soft and kind of sad smile and says, "But he said you're reliable." Ayame smiles a warm and happy smile, kind of like holding the phone to his face. We transition to the hallway where Yuki catches up with his mother. "Wait," he says, and he reaches out to her. "What?" she says. "I just want you to know the way things are going, you're ruining your life." This person, Yuki thinks, holding her shoulder. Was she always so small? Her shoulders are so thin. He has a memory again, or he remembers the same time that we saw earlier when he was younger, when she turned around and kind of like patted him and basically abandoned him at the house. "When I was younger, she always seemed so big. Back then, when she abandoned me, when she threw me away, everything lost its color. I thought that everything was over." Yuki says to his mother, Yuki takes his hand off of his mother's shoulder, and he says, "I want to live in this world and be part of it. To do that, I know I'm going to have to put forth an effort, but I think that I'm ready to make that effort. The result might be something that you don't like, but I want it to be something that I can be proud of. So I don't want you to decide anything without asking me. I don't want you deciding my fate for me." Yuki's mother is surprised as he continues, "I'll go to college, and as for where I'll apply, I'll think about that on my own." His mother doesn't say anything. She turns and walks away. Yuki sighs, and when he looks up again, he notices Tohru coming around the corner. Tohru looks concerned. Yuki looks exasperated, but suddenly, now from the student council, comes around the corner and calls for him. "President, here you are. I've been looking for you all over. Come with me." "Huh?" Yuki says, turning to him. What is it now?" "Just hurry," he says. "It's terrible." And we see Yuki looking back at Tohru. He smiles and says, "Sorry, Hana-san, I have to go." She smiles after him, and we see them running away. "Come back safely," she says. We see the narration. Even if the rain stops, the wind is unpleasantly cold and tells me that winter is coming. But the warmth in my heart is proof that there really is a light there. Proof that even though it's so small, it seems like it will go out with the slightest wind. It's definitely burning. During that narration, we see Tohru take the ribbon that Yuki gave her out of her hair. She holds it to her chest. And then we also see his mother kind of outside looking up at the sky. We see Yuki, his eyes closed, as he kind of finishes this narration. "Commander! You gotta be our commander!" Kakeru says, holding Ayame, who has found his way to the student council room, I guess. You were born to be the commander of the school defense force. Wow, you're so cool, Kakeru says. Ha ha ha, Ayame says, well, I can think of no reason why I shouldn't become your commander. Kimi stands in the background and says, really? Eyes wide. Hands brought up to her face in excitement. Nao grimaces and says they've been like that for a while. He's your brother, isn't he, President? Please do something. I can't work like this, he says. Yeah, your brother is wonderful. Does he have a girlfriend? Kimi asks. Matsui arrives at that time and also doesn't say anything. Yuki wonders what he should do. Now you've done it, stupid brother, he says. At the end of the chapter, we see a panel of Mayuko, who's on the phone with Hattori, using Ayame's cell phone. Hattori says he's a handful, isn't he? Hattori-kun, Mayuko says, I finally understand what you must go through. That's the end of the chapter. I'm glad we even got a little student council in here.
Yeah.
What a roller coaster ride.
I wonder if that was happenstance or if Ayame was like, I should check out the student council that Yuki's in.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's in the room, like, they're all there, so it must have... I can't imagine that it was happenstance. Unless, like, I could also see Kakeru being like, I heard that Yuki's brother is here or whatever, and, like, went to find him. Like, that's also possible, I feel. I also like how Mayuko's on the phone with Hattori using Ayame's cell phone at the end.
Yeah.
I was thinking, like, there's this conversation where there's, like, Uo and Hana, and also with Mayuko, and it seems like there's been a long time since we really saw them. I guess, like, because of the most of the focus was on the, like, beach house and the Soma characters for the last couple of episodes, so we haven't seen any non-Somas for a while, I feel like.
Yeah.
So it's nice to get some focus on them, too.
Let's see their very important parent-teacher conferences.
Let's say that I wanted to become a model.
I do like the joke Kyo made to Tohru, like that she like went to Uo as a serious suggestion, and she's like, "Yeah, that sounds cool.
Sounds good." Like Maiko's like, maybe you should take this more seriously, or think about it some more, or something. I do like that we get to see their parent-teacher conferences too. So.
Yeah, I got Hana's just like, maybe I could graduate.
Her mom was like, "You can do it, Saki." Anyway, would you like to start this discussion?
So I guess there's kind of a general theme of the future in this chapter, but kind of the two we focused on are Tohru's and Yuki's.
Yes.
And that's kind of a thing that's been growing a bit lately, the whole idea of like the future and looking forward and stuff, because we have the whole concept of the Somas who like can't escape, especially Kyo.
Right.
So we've had like stuff about them all kind of having extra anxiety about their parent-teacher conference because it's got subtext that the other kids don't have.
Yes. Yeah, of course you're right. And then also, I mean, Tohru has some anxiety too because she's been focused on achieving this goal that she made this promise to her mother all this time. But then beyond that, it seems like what it is that beyond that she hasn't thought about, more than that. Like she's just going to get a job. There's the scene where Mayuko asks if she's going to be leaving Shigure's house, and it causes her to have this like a memory or like a thought of a hallway. And at first I thought it was Shigure's house, but she remembers it again later. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. Like she remembers the same place when she leaves, and they're slightly different, but it's still covered in this like same texture and stuff. Mm-hmm. It looks like Shigure's hallway, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking it was like I'm not sure which specific building it's supposed to be, but I think it's kind of paralleling that. Like we saw a flashback of like her like in the empty apartment. Yes. After her mom died and she was moving out. Yeah,
that's also what it reminded me of. I don't know if it's actually that place, but it reminds me of that too.
Yeah, it might be like maybe like a parallel, like maybe it's Shigure's house, but she's thinking of having to leave it in the same way she had to leave her mother's. It kind of made me think of the bit in the new anime when she has the memory of like the doors closing.
Yeah, that's true. It is kind of like that.
Like people leaving and the doors closing, like suddenly.
It's kind of it definitely has a prominent door featured in it as well. Mm-hmm. Where like it kind of opens, it changes. So
yeah. But I think it's just kind of a general like symbol of like fear of the unknown coming like after she graduates kind of idea.
Mm-hmm. And something that I think from her reaction seems like something she hasn't thought about yet.
Yeah.
We also have the scene later of her with the box, like the same visual metaphor that we saw for Yuki's issues and his anxiety. Mm-hmm. And it's in the same kind of context where they're all talking about the anxiety that they have about the future.
Yeah. I think it's funny we got the return of the laundry metaphor.
Oh, yeah.
In this chapter. And we were just talking about it last episode when...
Yeah, we were like...
when we were talking about Yuki's whole... Yeah. Like, look at the things right in front of you and get those done instead of focusing on all the things you have to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we did get that again, and it led to them coming over, which was which was cute.
Yeah.
And also this little scene where Tohru is like, let's have a soumen party together to Kyo.
Yeah, it's cute.
Yeah, it's very sweet. But yeah, of course you're right. You're right in the sense that we saw the other like the Soma kids' anxiety, of course, is completely different than like normal kids because they of the situation with the family, and I think especially Yuki. So we finally got some more background. I think it's been building up for a while, but we learned more about his mother and her like kind of like her deal, like when he realized that she was just using him to, develop her status, I guess, within the family, and that all her focus with him is on ensuring that he has the right kind of like credentials to maintain whatever that status is.
I think Yuki's thing is interesting in this chapter because, like, his is obviously, a more extreme situation and has weird Soma stuff tied up with it.
Yeah.
But that basic idea of, like, parents, like, putting their, like, hopes and dreams on their kids and being disappointed when they turn out different than that is, a thing that happens, like, all the time in real life.
Yes. Yeah. And then you also have this, like, like Shisho is presented as a contrast to that, where he says, like, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he says that Kyo needs to decide for himself. Children need to decide for themselves what they need to do, but it's okay for parents to be concerned or like worried about what it is they're going to decide. And he says that he wants to hear, the answer from Kyo about what he wants to do when he graduates. And Kyo, he basically like swoops in and saves Kyo from having to be in like an awkward situation, I guess, with the meeting, because Mayuko is like, what do you want to do in the future? And he's kind of like, he's never thought about it, I guess. Like, he assumes that he is going to get locked up, so.
Yeah, he's like, I don't have a future.
Yeah. And Shisho is like, well, he's a punk.
Yeah, it like lightens the mood with the little joke thing.
Yeah. When I was reading this, at first I thought that what he says when he says, like, I want to spend time with her, like, at the end, I thought he was actually thinking that, and then I realized those are speech bubbles. Like, he's saying that. He says that to Shisho.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Shisho is like still there when he's saying it, or if he's kind of saying it to himself, but
he says it out loud, though.
Yeah, he definitely says it out loud.
And I was surprised by that. Yeah, I guess he's kind of far away. Like, you see, like, kind of the back of his head walking away.
Yeah.
And then they throw a shoe at him, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess, like, you could, between the three of them, like, Uo and Hana's conferences or whatever, I guess they're kind of standard, but then between Tohru and
they're more of a little gag, just to kind of set up the whole thing. But
Tohru and Yuki and Kyo's are interesting because I think none of the three of them have thought about what their future is beyond graduation because of various reasons. Like, Yuki's never been encouraged to do that, obviously. His mother thinks there's a plan that's laid out for him, and he's kind of actively working against it. Yeah,
and he's been, like, emotionally trained, basically, to not express any feelings or desires of his own. So
the things that his mother says were so frightening. Where she's like, you never, like, first she completely denies everything that he ever told her, and like has also sort of like constructed constructed a story about him that he can't make decisions by himself. She's like, you've never been able to make any decisions by yourself. That's why you picked this shitty school. That's why you, like, don't know what you're doing with your life.
Yeah, the bit, like, at the bit at the start of the conversation where, like, we've seen him, like, growing and developing over many, many chapters now, and, becoming a more, confident person. But, like, the second he's in the room with his mother and she starts talking, he just, like, he literally cannot get himself to say a word. Like, how he just kind of shuts down and, like, goes back to that childhood feeling of just powerlessness.
Yeah, he's like talking to himself. He's like, say it. You have to say something while they're arguing. And Mayuko tries to stand up for him, which is nice.
Yeah.
But
yeah, we get a lot of Mayu being a good teacher in these chapters.
Mayuko's a good person. No good person would date Shigure longer than 3 months or something. I mean.
Yeah, I do like all the bits with Mayu in this chapter. We see she's very, like, she doesn't understand everything that's going on. She can obviously pick up on kind of the subtleties and anxieties that are around each student, and kind of is able to reassure them in various ways. Like, even at the very beginning when she's talking to Yuki about the conference being changed, and like obviously realizes that this is uncomfortable thing for him, and she's like, don't worry about it, it's not a big deal, it'll be fine. Like,
it's nice to get more kind of like detail about Mayuko. Like and we get to see all her reactions to all the kids' things, which is nice.
Yeah.
I think you just said that, but like even Uo and Hana's, she's like,
yeah,
she's like, maybe you should think about it, and like way to set the bar, maybe set the bar higher, and like, and she like encourages Tohru. I mean, she's kind of aware of her situation. She's like, well, are you sure you don't want to do this? Like, are you sure that this is the end of your academic career? Like, we can, it's not too late to do these things. Like, as if, I don't know. She has something in mind to kind of like help her out, which is nice.
Yeah. And how like she ends it and she's like, okay, we'll go with what you're planning on doing right now, but there's still time to change your mind. So
yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah.
She's a great. They don't call her Great Teacher Mayuko for nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how in Yuki's parent-teacher conference, his mother was like, he is going to be in like a high position in the family someday. It's already been decided that Yuki will stand at the top of the Soma family someday, or whatever she says. So
yeah.
Does she think? Does that imply to you that she thinks that he's going to be like head of the family, or does that mean that she thinks that he's going to be like Akito's like Kureno, one day or something?
Yeah, I feel like some of it is just her assumptions. Like, yeah. I don't think anything's been promised. I think she's just like, oh, that's obviously he's gonna because he's
close with the head of the family.
Yeah, it's like, oh, he's favored by the head of the family, so obviously he's going to be in some important position.
Yeah,
I kind of wonder if she thinks like, since Akito's like kind of sickly, if she thinks like, well,
yeah,
obviously his favorite is going to take over after.
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, so it seems like she has an idea that Yuki is going to be in some high up position in the family. I also agree with you that I don't think that that's actually true, but like it doesn't really make sense. But
yeah, I think she has some illusions of
a grand destiny,
high status. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like that, which is interesting because we haven't really, I don't know, we just haven't really heard that before. I feel like her motivation is very clearly established both by like the things that she does and Yuki's memories and what Ayame says about her.
Yeah.
Like Ayame says to his mother Ayame says to Mayuko that his mother's motivated by like status and whatever. So.
I love that line where it's like she likes money and status, but she can't adapt to my innate royal character.
Yeah, exactly. I like the other thing that's kind of revealed in that conversation is that Yuki and Ayame's mother didn't think that they were close, and she's like, why did you get so close? As if she seems kind of annoyed by that. Like maybe she was purposely trying to keep them from getting close to each other. That's what it seems like to me. I'm interpreting that from what happened.
Yeah, well, I think she was probably she definitely would see Ayame as a bad influence, so she was probably happy to encourage any like lack of interaction between them.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and we get the impression it's a pretty recent thing that Ayame has been trying to rebuild his relationship with Yuki, so she obviously doesn't, give a shit about her kids, so she doesn't pay that much attention.
Yeah, we've only seen her twice or something. This is like the second time.
Yeah, this is the only time we've seen her face, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, we've just seen like glimpses of her
just in Yuki's memories, I think.
Yeah.
There's also, Yuki follows after her and he's like, was she always this small? Which is really interesting. Like he has this realization about how different he is as a person and how different she is than what he thought.
Yeah. I think it's another thing that shows like how little time they spend together because he's like, he's taller than her and obviously hadn't realized that until
they met this time.
Yeah, which happens in high school.
Yes.
Kids get taller than their parents sometimes.
Yeah. It's like, or sooner.
Yeah.
I think Yuki was a little bit short though. It looks like the last that memory that he has of her, it looks like he's in, well, it's when he was applying to high school, so he was in middle school, and you can tell that he looks kind of like his proportions are kind of small, even smaller than what we saw them when they were like freshmen in high school or whatever, when they first started high school. So it seems like he was a little kid. But yeah, they probably haven't seen each other in a couple of years, so.
I just want to talk about Ayame a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Coming into Yuki's conference.
Oh yeah, we should talk about that.
Yeah. First, I think it's hilarious he did bring roses.
Yes, a huge bouquet.
Because he'd been asking about that like many chapters ago. Because he was saying he was planning on coming for the parent-teacher conference. He's like, "Should I bring roses?" That
was how he started the conversation. He's like, "Should I bring a bouquet?" Yuki's like, "What?"
And like Amaya was just like, "Okay."
Yeah, whatever.
She's like, "These are nice."
She smells them in that scene.
Yeah.
I mean, she knows Ayame, so she knows that he's going to be like himself.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a little glimpse of them kind of being friends again in this chapter. Yeah, like she seemed to be aware of his plan to come too, because she's like, I didn't think you'd make it since we had to change the date. And
well, Mayuko he told Yuki before that he knew about the thing. So I think it was the assumption, and there was like, wasn't there a little like cutaway or something that Mayuko was like, I didn't do it or whatever. But I mean, it's obvious that she told him. So
yeah. But yeah, it's nice. It's like he kind of does the same thing with like Shisho making the joke that kind of lightens the tension. He comes in and kind of breaks that like powerless feeling that Yuki had with being overwhelmed by his mother there.
And Yuki stands up for him. It gives him more confidence too. Like he stands up for Ayame. So
yeah, it's really cute both ways. It's also funny to see like after we've seen his mother so like cool and harsh and unreasonable, just how completely like almost unhinged she gets when Ayame's in the room. Like...
She's like, what are you doing here? Like she yells at him and he ignores her. It's so great. And also she has like really, almost complete control over Yuki being able to speak. Like not over what he does at this point. But like she controls the whole conversation. And then when Ayame comes in, he takes over. And she can't get a word in, which is great. And then she just like gives up and leaves, which is wonderful. And then Yuki, of course, chases after her. But yeah, it's great that Ayame comes in. He can really, she's like unhinged.
That's like his like serious line where he's telling her that like basically we both have a chance to do better because Yuki's not holding a grudge against us, and basically saying you better take that chance.
Yeah. Well, and then Yuki goes and chases after her and talks to her, and then she just like doesn't say anything and leaves. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's a good line for like Yuki's character because like he says he really owes neither of them anything because they were both awful to him. He doesn't owe them a second chance, but he's the kind of person who he is currently giving Ayame his second chance, and he doesn't think of it that way, but that's what he's doing. And and he's obviously willing to give his mother some kind of second chance too, since he goes out there and tries to talk to her.
I think it's interesting. So, like, he has this little memory of Tohru being like, do your best or whatever. Like, and she says that this parent-teacher conference is for him to decide what he wants to do. And I actually think that's more about him. We've heard him kind of being worried about all these problems or things that he feels like he has to do. I feel like he's decided, like, this is the kind of person that he wants to be is this person. Like, he wants to be the kind of person who's nice and has a relationship with his brother and, like, wants to extend and try to... like not, he wants to have control of his own life, but then he goes and tells his mother in a way that's like very firm, but not mean. Like, I'm going to do these things. So it's kind of like it seems to me like he's made a decision about who he wants to be, and he's just executing that, like.
Yeah. And we saw like a couple chapters ago when he was first having the anxiety about like, there's all these things I need to do, and I don't know which one to like prioritize. We saw a glimpse of his mother in that like panel of all the things he
his to-do list
had to think about. So here he's starting to work on part of that.
And Ayame wasn't in that panel, but he was kind of in that in that little scene. There was a panel of him too. But I think he's already acknowledged that he wants to try to have a better relationship with Ayame. Like that happened a long time ago, like even before the beach. Probably.
Yeah.
So.
And they do have a pretty good relationship in this chapter.
Clearly.
Even just the bit when he's like stopping him from like sending a text to Hattori, that's a pretty like friendly little like bickering conversation rather than like actively being angry at each other. Also, as a side note, I like to think that Hattori doesn't even have a phone that gets text messages.
It's like one of those like gross like text to voice. It's like, this person sent you a text message.
Well, like the only time we've seen him on the phone has been like a landline.
That's true. It's like, I need to send him a text, and it's like a call. And Hattori picks it up, and it's like, Ha-san, you will never guess what Yuki did, or whatever. Nobody remembers voice to
horrible
text, probably.
Screeching, yeah. Anyway, that's my headcanon.
I wouldn't be surprised if Tori didn't have one. Although they're all rich, so maybe he has a fancy phone. I don't know.
Maybe.
It seems like everybody except for the main trio has cell phones in this story. Like Kakaru has one. How does he have a cell phone? And Ayame had one before. Also, Yame's phone still has the little rat charm on it, which is also very early 2000s. It's good. Like, Mayuko's using all his minutes talking to Hattori.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, it's great that Ayame came in, and it's great. I love we can see Ayame and Yuki's development has progressed, and then that gets kind of like, it like slaps their mom in the face too. Where she expects that things are going a certain way, and that's not the reality. In the case of Yuki and with Ayame and Yuki. So, but yeah, okay. So can we talk about Toru's? We didn't talk about her conference in detail yet.
No, we just kind of touched on it when we were talking about all three.
Okay.
Yeah, Kyo's is the shortest, so we already kind of talked about his.
Well, all the interesting thing is after, right?
Yeah. So yeah, Tohru.
Yeah, Tohru. I think it's interesting because I can't remember if I said this before, so I'm just going to say it again so that I can edit it in. But like, it's interesting that I think that all three of them, Yuki and Kyo and Tohru, I did talk about this. I was gonna say they're all similar in that they kind of show like they haven't really thought that much about their future. So when we look at like Toru's case, what's happening is that she has focused on getting through high school because that was the last promise she made to her mother, but she's never really thought about anything beyond that. And we did talk about the memory. We spent a long time already talking about the memory that she had or like whatever the thought or memory of leaving Shigure's house, which is it's probably related. She has all this anxiety we saw last time about people leaving her, especially like Kyo. When she visited her grandmother or her grandfather, of course, that triggered that feeling for her. So that anxiety also came up during her parent-teacher conference.
Yeah, like there's a lot of, like, you get like Toru's kind of anxiety, which comes up during and after the conference, but a lot of the conference is about Shigure and Mayu.
Yeah, that's right. So good. I was so excited. But I like, the Tohru obviously has no idea what's going on, but then Mayuko and Shigure are like, "Oh, it's so great of you to be here." They're just like super fake like smiles.
And Tohru does her thing I love, where she's like, "Oh, it was good, but there are some ice crystals."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, she does the thing. Her internal thoughts become her external thoughts, both to Shigure and to Yuki later. Yeah. But they, Shigure also, so Tohru trails off. Like, actually the same thing happens to all three of them, where they start to talk about the future, and then Tohru kind of trails off, and then Shigure breaks the, like, the moment by being like, so why don't you just be my bride or whatever? So even though he was, I don't know, he was able to kind of help her not be to kind of break her out of what the thing that she was thinking about that was giving her anxiety. So.
Yeah, because you can see him notice that, because like when Mayu says like, after you graduate you're planning on leaving Soma-sen's house, you have like the panel of Toru's face, but you also see Shigure kind of noticing. So like there's obviously some awareness of that being some anxiety around there.
Yeah. Well, Shigure is very perceptive. He uses his powers for evil and not good. But but yeah, he notices that she's not happy, or she's having having some feels. Yeah. So he adds some levity. I thought it was nice. Mayuko also was really kind to her, and she's like, another thing that she says is like, don't take on too much, and Toru's like, I don't understand what she means by that. Yeah. So much so that she leans over in the hallway.
There's like random students going like, that girl is really leaning.
Yeah. It's really funny.
Yeah.
The background students, on an unrelated note, all the background students are really funny in this, where they're all like swooning over Shigure and Shisho. Yeah. And then of course they have, Mayuko and Shigure have this conversation after Tohru leaves, where it's mostly sass, but then Mayuko says that he needs to take better care of Tohru and make sure she doesn't take on too much, and he's like, I am taking good care of her. And then we should talk about his expression. So I described it as regretful. I don't know how you feel about it. I would like to hear what your impression is also.
Yeah. I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but I think like Shigure does care about Tohru, but not enough to like let his other plans go by the wayside. And so I think he does have some regret around the way he like feels like he has to treat her at times. And so this is like even like the page before when Mayu first tells him to take better care of her, and he says like, I don't know how much you know that would make you say that, but someone else has told me that recently. He looks a little like, has that same kind of almost regretful expression.
it's like remorseful, but like I'm gonna do what I want.
It's sort of,
it's like determined and regretful.
It's sort of like, it's like he's like, I know I'm doing shitty things, but
I need to for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I don't really want to, but I have to.
Yeah. I was also really excited, and I forgot that we got to see what Rin and he talked about in this, because he remembers Rin talking about it. So of course, I don't know what else they talked about when Rin couldn't have just gone there to be like, I saw that Tohru was hurt. Like they must have talked about something else, but that's the part that we saw.
The way they're like sitting and everything makes it look like this is like the end of a conversation. Like Maybe. They've been talking about something else, and with her like sitting behind his chair like that.
Yeah, sitting back to back, which is kind of weird and interesting in and of itself.
Yeah.
And Rin looks really upset too. Like she looked like she was already kind of upset. So I don't know, maybe she talked to him about something else and something else happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just excited we got to see it. And it's also it's nice we can see that Rin is, so for all her like trying to shun Tohru, she still noticed that Tohru was injured and brought it up to Shigure. So.
Yeah.
Like she didn't ask her about it. She didn't ask like Yuki or Haru or anybody else. But
and we talked about in the last discussion about how we were just starting to see like a little bit of a softer side to Rin with the whole thing with Haru, and so this is showing like a little bit more, because like even though she was like being really mean to Tohru in all the times they've met, this shows that her expressing some concern for Tohru.
Yeah. Same with Yuki. It was like the same way she treats Yuki, where she's really mean to him, but then we saw in his memory that she did something nice for him, or she was protecting Haru, but I mean kind of Yuki at the same time. I mean, he would benefit by not getting trouble as well, I guess, but it's presented as her protecting Haru, so
yeah.
But she cares about people regardless, including Tohru. So, oh, I guess we could talk about student council. That's the last thing we haven't talked about, right? Probably.
Yeah. It seems like a nice bit of just kind of showing another, like it's a comedy bit at the end, but the bit leading into it is kind of showing his like a little bit more of Yuki's growth as a person.
Yeah.
Because it's showing like he's got other commitments, other things he's doing.
They also literally take him away from Tohru. So Tohru comes to try to be like supportive of him. And we know that he thought of her as someone that supports him in the last chapter, I think, when he was thinking about Haru and her. So she comes to try to talk to him, but he gets dragged away to the student council. So
yeah. I think but they both look happy, like as they're going in the other directions. Like
he smiles at her and she smiles at him.
He smiles and says like, "Sorry, I have to go," and she smiles and says, "Come back safe." Like
yeah, it's very sweet.
Yeah, it's a good moment.
It's like dropping your kid off at like a summer camp where they're like, "I'm excited," and you're like, "Okay, have a good time," or something like that. It's very sweet. It's a good moment. She's really worried about him. She comes to check on him, but then like this other thing sort of takes him away. But you know, I don't know. It seems like the way that you talk about it seems like they know how the other feels.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like they both see that the other is doing okay at the moment.
Yes.
Like,
or that Yuki's doing okay. Yuki feels like he's doing okay, and she notices that he's doing okay. I think it's about just about him.
Yeah.
It was nice. And then, of course, Ayame shows up in the student council room.
Yeah. I also like that we get the little like throwback to the ribbon.
Yeah, that's right.
Yuki and Tohru.
Oh, I almost
really
forgot
cute.
to talk about that. Yes.
Yeah, I see her. You can see her wearing it every now and then in the series, which
it's nice.
Is something I always thought was cute. I'm like, oh, she's wearing that ribbon again. So it's kind of cute for it to get a full, like, you know, full panel close up kind of callback.
It's like almost a page. She takes it out and she holds it.
And yeah, no, now Ayame is the commander of the school defense force.
Is that above president? Like, he can't compete with Yuki. I mean,
yeah. It's actually kind of funny that we have that, because didn't we, like, in the first chapter where Yuki met Kakeru, didn't he have like a panel where he's like, he's just like him?
Yes.
Like, comparing him to Ayame.
Yes.
So.
Definitely.
It's kind of funny to see them meet and immediately get along.
Yes. Well, not even beyond get along. Kakeru is like, you need to be our leader, you know? So good. And he's like, of course.
Yeah. I like Machi trying to like disappear into the wall before she gets dragged into this.
Now I was like, get them out of here. I'm trying to do work, which is also hilarious. Disappear into the wall. Yeah, there's a little motion. I was looking to see what the little motion line is. It looks like she's like scooting away, like her elbow is up.
Looks like she like just arrived and is now trying to slide out of the room before.
It's This little empty or
before
like
anyone
a
notices her.
Bubble. Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah. It's like, never mind. I decided I don't want to be here.
Yeah. Yes. It's the right choice.
Yeah.
I guess like overall, I feel like we talked about everything in detail.
Yeah.
But overall, there's the kind of like themes. Oh, we forgot one small thing. Wait, no. I mean, one small thing that I also noticed is that they had Yuki and Kyo and Tohru, of course, like ate together, and then Shigure came in and they had their little like bickering, and then that also was, you could see, I don't know, it's just nice to see Kyo sitting with them. Like we always talk about it, but they had just a little scene where they had that. And Toru's friends too, I guess, come over for food in the
we see more and more of these just being like friendly, normal family scenes rather than like turning into some tense argument or something like we used to see at the beginning.
Yeah, they like pick on each other, but mostly they pick on Shigure, you know?
Yeah.
And they like tease each other, but it's not arguments, it's like teasing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since we talked about all of them, I feel like we talked about this a little bit, but clearly like a theme in this is, I guess, like anxiety about the future. This has been building up for the last couple of chapters, I feel like, since the beach.
Yeah, it's kind of like the natural conclusion of it. It's like, oh, everyone's having these like subtle anxieties regarding their future, and it's like, hey, now you have to go and officially talk about your future.
Yeah, you just have to tell like your teacher that you see every day and your parents about all your feelings. No big deal. But I guess like they're all sort of linked together because they all kind of have the same issue or the same thing going on with their feelings, where it's like they don't know about the future, and they're still working it out, and all of them are kind of like that. They're all like, everybody has that to a certain extent, so it's kind of a universal
like
feeling.
all of them, all of them hadn't thought much farther ahead than like where they are now because they had various reasons not to, so
right,
or like to feel like they couldn't or shouldn't, so
right. We didn't have any reveals about the curse. We didn't have any other things that we normally talk about. So just about the kids this time. They're like normal kid lives, but how they're so, for most of them, well, for Kyo and Yuki is how their Soma situation affects them, and then also for Tohru, how her situation with her mother is still affecting her.
Yeah. It's like, and her other Soma situation.
I loved how Tohru was like, I won't stay out of it, or whatever, also in that scene. It was really great.
It was cute.
Yeah, it was nice.
Like how Yuki is like still like, huh? When she like
I
says
know.
things, like, you think he'd be used to it by now.
Yeah, he said that then, and then he also said that when she was like, there were ice crystals, and he's like, what?
Yeah.
Kyo doesn't say anything though.
Yeah.
Well, Yuki's always trying to figure out what's going on. You know, it's kind of his deal. He's like, as a part of my goal of understanding others, I will always ask for more details.
Yeah. You used to be in a gang, right?
Tell me more, what did he say? It was so funny.
I can't remember the exact thing. It was just like, tell me more about the gang life.
Yeah. It's funny.
He tries.
Yeah, he does. Okay. Well, on that note, I feel like we've discussed everything. I have some spoiler things, I think, that I want to chat with you about. So yeah, stick around with us if you want to talk about spoilers. Otherwise, we'll see you in like 2 weeks. 3 weeks? 3 weeks. Yeah.
See you in the next year.
Yeah, we'll see you in the new year. Hope everybody has a great variety of holidays.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a good time.
See you in 2020.
We'll see you in 2020. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I also dance when we do that too. Just so you know.
I don't.
Well, I haven't gotten a handle on the medium of podcasting. I hope the dancing comes through in my voice. I mean, spoilers.
Woo.
It's so exciting. I feel like as much as these chapters had so many things, it was kind of a weird, like, I think that actual chapter with Yuki's mom, like the second chapter we read, is pretty short, like page wise. There's a lot of dialogue, but I was looking at it and I was like, this seems different than the others. So I don't know. I mean, that's my non-objective opinion, my subjective opinion.
Yeah. Well, there's not a lot of actual movement in that chapter. Like, it's pretty much just like they go to the conference room and they have a conference and then they go into the hallway. So
you're right. It's mostly Yuki's memories. Like, it was also they used the same. There was a couple chapters ago that had the same setup where it's like Yuki. I mean, Takai uses it a lot, but it was exactly the same setup in which it was like Yuki's memories and stuff that sets it up. I feel like that's often used for Yuki now. It's kind of like, I feel like his character's kind of contemplative style has been revealed over time.
Yeah, he's a very internal person, so he has a lot of thoughts going on the inside all the time.
Yeah, a lot of feelings. He does seem to be very introspective. Maybe it's just like part of his growth currently.
Yeah.
I mean, all of it is like addressing all these built-up narratives that were part of his life that he's now realizing are like not real.
Yeah, and like this chapter specifically is talking about how he's like always felt like it wasn't worth it to put his thoughts into words because of how his mother just would completely ignore him.
Yeah. But Tohru and others encouraged him to do that, so. I have one specific spoiler that I wanted to talk to you about.
Okay.
Which is in Tohru's after the parent-teacher conference, she's talking to Hana and Uo. There's that panel with all her like crazy. First of all, it's super chaotic, which is abnormal for Tohru, I think. I think even in the other times that we've seen her be sort of anxious, like the scene at the beach and whatever, we saw her, but we didn't see her thoughts like that, I feel like, where it's like a bunch of things at the same time. But the thing that I noticed was
and
that...
it's very sketchy looking and everything. But...
I noticed that Kakeru and Komaki are there. Isn't that who the two students are?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
They got ties.
Yeah, I didn't notice that until this read before, but...
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that connection at all the first time I read this story.
Yeah, and I probably wouldn't have noticed it, except I was reading ahead a little bit in the next volume, and that's toward the end of volume 13 is the first time the idea that Kakeru and Tohru have some connection has come up. Then when I was flipping back through to take notes, I was like, oh, I think that's them.
I saw them and because I think later they Tohru actually has that that memory, and she stands Komaki stands almost exactly like that, so it reminded me of that, and I was like, but at first I was like, who are all these people? Oh, it took a second even when I was reading through it this time. That was the only major spoiler that I noticed. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff like that connection won't be revealed until later. I think more of Toru's anxieties are slowly going to be more revealed further and further, right?
Yeah, we get the first look of Rin actually being concerned for Tohru,
right,
which become a thing for both of them later on.
Right. It's like, and Uo will become a model. I mean,
yeah.
Actually, I don't
Biggest
know.
Spoiler of them all. Yeah, I don't know. Does it say in
another?
Fruits Basket another?
I don't know. I haven't read all of Fruits Basket another that's come out, so it wasn't in the part that I read. But who knows? I mean, there's a lot of good chapters in the rest. There's 13, so out of 21 or 22.
Yeah, I was when I was flipping ahead, I was like, oh, I like this part. Oh, I like this part. Oh, I like this part. They were all I'm like, oh, these are all good parts in this volume.
Volume 12, I wouldn't have looked at it and said, I know there's something in there that I remember, but after reading all of it, it turned out to be really good. All of these chapters are really interesting. There's a lot of moving parts. We saw a lot of the characters' development, in the post-beach world that we're living in. So it was nice. We got to see even more Kagura, Yuki's continuing really rapid growth since realizing how misguided he's been, or whatever. All of his misconceptions that he wanted to address that he realized during the beach arc. He's moving forward with them, so it was actually really exciting. I wasn't expecting anything. I mean, I just, like I said, I don't. If I was looking at these on the shelf, I wouldn't look at 12 and be like, oh, I really want to pick that one up and find something because I remember this one thing is in there. But now I know it was great.
Yeah.
For example, I look at Momiji's the volume 6 with the true form, and I see the crack in the spine that's in there, and I'm like, that's a good one. I know that's what happens in that volume, but in this one, I couldn't have mentioned a thing that I remembered very strongly. So,
Volume 12 says the world's most popular shoujo manga, and then Volume 13 says the #1 manga in America.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
Yeah, the #1 manga in America. Really? Well, Tokyo Pop would know, I guess.
Yeah,
They would
at least
never
as
lie.
Of,
As of, I wonder when's the publishing date. It's probably in here.
yeah. April of 2006.
It's entirely possible. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the number one selling shoujo at that time, though. It's not like there was much competition in North American publishing. Well, interesting. I had no idea. Were there any other big spoilers? Probably not.
Not really.
It was all about people's kind of like weird, like preconceptions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I definitely don't think that Yuki's actually slated for anything in the head of the family. I think that was just mom's conjecture. That's not.
Yeah.
I don't think it's ever revealed if it is that way or not, but I'm pretty sure that's just her.
I did have some weird thought. I was like, I wonder if she knows that Akito is a girl and is like, well, obviously they're going to be married.
I don't know. We can write a fanfic about that for sure, if that's not true. I don't know, maybe. I mean, she was like an adult when Akito was born, so it could be that she
it's
knows
like, I don't know how widely available the knowledge was to people who weren't directly... Because, I mean, Ayame is old enough to know, and she was
Shigure knows.
So she was a mother of a zodiac at the time.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that...
Like, I could see her thinking, like, it's like, obviously, since Yuki is being favored by the female head of the household...
Yeah. Then someday he'll become the head of the household.
Yes, like, he's like, he'll be betrothed to them.
Yeah. Affianced.
Yes. Intended.
I was like, how did we understand this movie when we were children? When I watched it again recently. But then he's like, one day you two will get to be married. Back. Yeah. Betrothed and all.
What?
Gross. I can't marry her. It's so innocent. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's what she thinks. It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
I like how in denial she is too, where she's just like ignoring Yuki, who's like begging her to take him with her. And she's like, well, the head of the family likes you. Anyway, see you later. It's like,
yeah,
what the fuck, lady? Like, what the hell?
Yeah. And like the other one where she's just like, you've never once said you hated it there.
No.
It's
like, I clearly said that many times. I begged you to take me away as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's fucked up. Yeah. If I had to put it in words.
Yeah. Poor sad baby Yuki.
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder, I was like, when there was that chapter with Kagura, and she was like, oh, nobody would get mad at you if you watched TV anymore, to Kyo. And I'm always like, oh, Kyo. And then I see a thing with Yuki, and I'm like, oh, baby Yuki. Like, their lives are just both so fucked up.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there was like a brief scene with the student council. I think that transition scene where Yuki sees Tohru in the hallway is alluding to him. Like, the student council are the people who really help him to grow the most. Like, Tohru's Tohru is a person who's able to kind of like get him to a place where he can be a part of that and then continue to grow. So you have this kind of like, it's like this handoff scene where, and like Tohru takes the ribbon out of her hair, like. It's kind of symbolic of her being supportive of him, and then the student council kind of taking him away, taking his attention away. And
I think it's just showing, like he's not fully reliant on Tohru as like
support,
an emotional support system anymore.
Yeah,
he's got other people he can, like, he doesn't quite know that yet, but that he can like rely on.
And Ayame's there too in that scene too, so all of them are there, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I also didn't remember that scene, and I thought it was a really nice transition that shows that.
Yeah, because we keep having people saying like we had Haru in the last chapters being like, oh, that's a good thing for you, with him talking about how he's not sure how the student council stuff is going to turn out and stuff. So it's obviously a trend of that becoming a good thing for him, and breaking out of his kind of old situation.
It's nice because the next chapter is also about the student council, so I think we'll get to see some more of them too.
Yeah, the next chapter is a good Yuki and Kakeru interaction.
Member color assignments, yes.
Yeah. The next chapter is where like he and Kakeru really start to become buddies. So, and then we see him with more of the student council and other people at the end during the school trip too.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. Is that all the spoilers?
I think so.
Okay. Well, that's just great. I mean, well, next time we're going to talk about chapter. So actually, we'll be off for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks. We'll be back in 3 weeks. And next time we're going to talk about chapter 73, and the episode after that it'll be 74 and 75. It'll be a good time.
Yay!
All right, cool. Thank you all for listening. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.